because he just went on the Today Show and he was talking about the WNBA CBA, and here's what he had to say.
It started with one interview, one sentence, one smirk on national television that sent shockwaves through the entire WNBA. Adam Silver, the most powerful man in basketball, sat calmly on the Today Show, talking about the Women's League as if it were a side project. He leaned in, smiled, and said the line that broke the internet. I think share isn't the right way to look at it, because there's so much more revenue in the NBA. And just like that, the WNBA went to war with itself. Players were furious. Owners were panicking. The commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, was suddenly in the middle of a firestorm she couldn't control. And at the center of it all, without even saying a word, was Caitlin Clark, the one player who'd saved the league from irrelevance, now accused of accidentally tearing it apart. For weeks, this had been building quietly behind the scenes. Whispers of frustration, rumors of tension between Adam Silver and Engelbert, players grumbling about pay and power. But Silver's calm dismissal on live TV, that was the spark. The message was clear. You can get a raise, sure, but don't think you're sitting at the grown-ups table. Within hours, the WNBPA, the players' union, fired back publicly. They didn't send a press release. They didn't ask for a meeting. They went straight to Instagram and posted a screenshot of Silver's interview with the caption, "Don't want to share, Adam Silver." Yes, they tagged him directly. The commissioner of the NBA called out in front of millions by the league he bankrolls. It was petty, it was bold, and it was the moment everything exploded. Behind the scenes, phones were ringing non-stop. Sponsors wanted answers. Investors were getting nervous. And Kathy Engelbert, caught between the players and her boss, was running out of moves. Because here's the part no one likes to admit. The WNBA doesn't even own itself. The NBA owns 40% of it. Another 18% belongs to outside investors. That leaves Engelbert's office with only 42% control. Not enough to make any major decision without Silver's approval. So when the players demand a bigger share of league revenue, she can't just say yes, even if she wanted to. That's the dirty secret of women's basketball, the one no one says out loud. The league was built on borrowed money. It still runs on borrowed money. And if Adam Silver ever decided to pull the plug, it would collapse in a single season. But the players don't see it that way. They see full arenas, record-breaking jersey sales, ESPN segments that never existed before Caitlin Clark arrived. They see headlines calling her the savior of women's basketball. And they think, we made this happen. We deserve more. And honestly, they're not wrong, because Caitlin Clark changed everything. When she entered the league, ticket prices doubled overnight. TV ratings soared. Social media engagement exploded. The WNBA, once a quiet summer league barely hanging on, suddenly became a cultural talking point. She was the story. Every night, every game, every highlight. But that power came with a price. Because when she got injured, everything crashed. Ratings dipped. Talk shows stopped mentioning the league. ESPN quietly canceled one of its new WNBA talk shows. The energy that once felt unstoppable suddenly disappeared. That's when reality hit Adam Silver like a cold wind. He saw the numbers. He saw the drop. And he knew. One player can't carry an entire league forever. That's why he went on national TV and said what he said. It wasn't arrogance. It was a warning. You don't split 50-50 when the house is still on fire. But to the players, it sounded like an insult. To fans, it sounded like disrespect. And to Caitlin Clark, whether she wanted to admit it or not, it made her the symbol of everything broken and everything beautiful about women's basketball. The league was celebrating her success in public, while quietly panicking about its consequences in private. Because the Caitlin Clark effect wasn't just a headline. It was a dependency. Without her, the hype dies. The sponsors vanish. The cameras leave. And that's the nightmare Cathy Engelbert is living right now, trying to balance the dreams of her players with the reality of her investors. In public, she smiles, promising growth and empowerment. Behind closed doors, she's walking on eggshells between two ticking time bombs: her players' expectations and Adam Silver's patience. And the clock's running out. The current CBA expires on Halloween. If no deal is reached, the league faces its first-ever lockout, the kind of labor standoff that could kill all the momentum Caitlin Clark built in just 1 year. And here's the cruel irony. She's the reason this fight even exists. Her success raised expectations higher than the league could afford. She didn't ask to be the savior. She just wanted to play. But now, she's the reason billionaires are fighting in boardrooms. Players are posting shade on social media, and executives are scrambling to rewrite history. The league has become addicted to her. And now, that addiction might destroy it. The morning after the players called out Adam Silver, the NBA offices in New York felt like a war room. No one was laughing. No one was talking. Everyone was waiting for Silver to speak. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't slam a desk. He just looked at the viral post on his phone, sighed, and said quietly, "So this is where we are now." For the first time in decades, the NBA's dominance was being questioned, not by rival leagues or owners, but by the very people it helped build up. The irony wasn't lost on him. For years, Silver had been the face of progressive basketball, the commissioner who stood for equality, who promised that the women's league mattered. But the truth was more complicated. Equality sounded great in press releases. It was chaos in a boardroom. By noon, Cathy Engelbert was on a call with him, her voice calm but tense. "Adam, the players are angry. They feel dismissed." Silver didn't flinch. "Cathy, they're acting like this is personal." "It's not personal. It's math." Math. That was his answer for everything. But this wasn't about numbers anymore. It was about respect, control, and survival. Because while Silver spoke of financial sustainability, the players were talking about value, human value. They saw the packed arenas, the millions of social media views, and Caitlin Clark jerseys flying off the shelves. To them, that was proof they'd arrived. To Silver, it was just the beginning of a business model he wasn't ready to share. Behind every polite interview, the tension was boiling, and nowhere was that more visible than inside the WNBA Players Association group chat. It started as chatter, memes about Silver's, quote, "Qui si bien, chiandin tu tyanin," screenshots of tweets, sarcastic comments. But by evening, it turned into strategy. The veterans, like Aja Wilson and Brianna Stewart, were furious. They wanted to make a statement. Boycotts, public letters, media pressure, but others warned caution. "Don't poke the bear," one message read. "We need Silver more than he needs us." And somewhere in that chaos, Caitlin Clark's name kept coming up. Not as a target, but as a symbol, because everyone knew. She was the reason the league was finally being taken seriously. She was also the reason it was fracturing. She'd become too powerful, too fast. The league couldn't keep up. Privately, Clark hated it. She didn't want to be a lightning rod. She'd spent years being praised for her humility, her focus, her love for the game. But now, every time she smiled for a photo, every time she gave a polite answer about growing the league, someone somewhere twisted her words into politics, and the players felt it too. Some envied her attention. Others defended her fiercely. Most just wished the drama would stop. But drama is fuel. And the media was addicted. Every sports show, every podcast, every post dissected Silver's comment and the players' outrage. Headlines screamed of civil war, of WNBA rebellion. Every time Caitlin Clark stepped on a court, cameras zoomed in like she was walking into a courtroom. And she knew it. You could see it in her eyes. that flicker of fatigue behind every polite post-game smile. Meanwhile, Kathy Engelbert was trying to hold everything together. Her office turned into a revolving door of meetings, phone calls, and damage control. She spoke to sponsors, trying to convince them the league was stable. She spoke to players, assuring them their voices were heard. And she spoke to Adam Silver, again and again, trying to stop him from saying anything else that would set the internet on fire. But Silver wasn't backing down. In one meeting, an executive asked him, "Should we issue a clarification?" Silver leaned back, crossed his arms, and said, "If they want to renegotiate, they can bring numbers to the table. Otherwise, we move forward. Cold, clinical, business. But this wasn't business anymore. It was emotional. And emotions don't fit neatly into spreadsheets." That's when the WNBPA made its next move. They announced they were forming a new committee, one focused entirely on collective bargaining and player equity. A bold statement, weeks before the CBA deadline. Silver saw it for what it was: leverage. The players weren't just talking about fairness. They were preparing for a fight. And for the first time, it wasn't about the NBA controlling the WNBA. It was about the WNBA deciding whether it could survive without the NBA. That question hung over every conversation, every tweet, every sideline camera pan of Caitlin Clark. Because the truth was, the league's future depended on her, and everyone knew it, even Adam Silver. He didn't say it publicly, but he knew the numbers by heart. The top 5 highest-rated WNBA games of all time all involved Caitlin Clark. The top 5 jersey sales, all in her first season. That's why his interview hit so hard. Not because it was false, but because it reminded everyone how fragile this new success really was. Caitlin Clark was a miracle, yes, but miracles don't last forever. And as the CBA deadline drew closer, one question grew louder than all the others. What happens when the miracle gets tired? By the time the next game tipped off, the arena was louder than ever. Signs, flashbulbs, cameras. Caitlin Clark's world had turned into a spectacle. Every move she made was magnified, every word dissected. She was no longer just a rookie. She was a brand, a battleground, and a symbol. But in private, she was just tired. In the quiet corners of team buses and hotel rooms, away from the noise, she'd scroll through headlines that had nothing to do with basketball. Words like controversy, privilege, power. None of it felt real. She wanted to talk about assists, defense, the rhythm of the game, not league politics or commissioner statements. But she couldn't escape it. Everywhere she turned, someone was asking, "What do you think about Adam Silver's comments?" Every time, she gave the same answer: calm, respectful, diplomatic. But behind the polite tone, she was holding back something deeper. Confusion, frustration, maybe even guilt. Because no matter how much she tried to stay out of the chaos always found her. She wasn't the one demanding higher pay. She wasn't the one attacking Silver. Yet somehow, her name was at the center of every debate. A journalist once asked her, "Do you feel responsible for the attention, good or bad, the league's getting right now?" She hesitated, then said softly, "I just play basketball. Everything else, that's for others to decide." But even she didn't believe that anymore. The truth was, she'd become the face of something much bigger than herself. And every success, every mistake, every quote carried the weight of an entire movement. Meanwhile, inside the locker room, the tension was growing. Her teammates loved her. But the pressure was real. Some felt overshadowed. Others felt protective. Most just wanted to win without the noise. One night, after a tough loss, a teammate snapped during an interview. "We're not just here to watch Caitlin Clark play," she said sharply. "We're a team." The clip went viral in minutes. Suddenly, the conversation shifted again. It wasn't just Clark versus the media. It was Clark versus her own locker room. And that's when the isolation really set in. She started eating dinners alone more often, staying later at the gym, focusing harder on drills. She told herself it was discipline. But deep down, it was escape. The one place that still felt pure was the court. When the ball hit her hands, the noise disappeared. The crowd blurred. The pressure vanished. It was just her and the game. The same way it had been since she was a kid shooting hoops in her driveway, dreaming of moments like this. But dreams come with a cost. Every step she took now came with expectation. Every play was evidence, either proof she was the savior of the WNBA or proof she didn't deserve the crown she'd been given. And while the fans worshipped her, the system began to depend on her. Ratings rose because of her. Sponsors renewed because of her. Networks doubled their coverage because of her. It was all riding on her shoulders. And no one asked if she could carry it forever. Then came the meeting. It was late, after a road trip. Adam Silver, Kathy Engelbert, and a handful of WNBA executives invited her to a private dinner. She didn't know what to expect. They talked about opportunity, visibility, momentum. They smiled, complimented her leadership, hinted at new marketing campaigns. But as the meeting went on, Caitlin realized something chilling. They weren't really asking her opinion. They were asking for her compliance. They wanted her to play both roles, the athlete and the ambassador, the player and the politician. When she stayed quiet, Adam Silver leaned in slightly and said, "You understand how much influence you have, right?" She nodded, unsure. He smiled. "Then you understand what's at stake if you say the wrong thing." It wasn't a threat. It was a reminder, and in that moment, she understood exactly what he meant. The league needed her, but it also needed control. She was the key. But keys can open doors or lock them shut. That night, she went back to her hotel and sat on the balcony for hours, staring at the city lights below, the cheers, the headlines, the fame. It all felt distant now. The same world that lifted her up could tear her down in a heartbeat. For the first time, she wondered what would happen if she walked away. Would the league still survive? Would anyone still care? It was a dangerous thought, but it lingered. Because deep down, she knew she couldn't keep carrying everyone's expectations forever. The question wasn't whether Caitlin Clark could save the WNBA. It was whether the WNBA could survive long enough to stop needing her to. The turning point didn't come from a press conference or a headline. It came from a moment no one expected. A simple foul during a nationally televised game. The play itself was ordinary. Caitlin drove to the basket, took a hard hit, and fell to the floor. But the reaction that followed wasn't. Half the crowd gasped. The other half booed. The replay flashed again and again, slow motion, frame by frame, every angle dissected. Commentators debated if it was intentional. Social media erupted. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. But this time, it wasn't about basketball. It was about what that foul represented. Some fans called it targeted aggression, proof that Caitlin Clark was being singled out. Others said it was karma, payback for all the hype. Even players from rival teams weighed in, fueling the storm. By morning, it wasn't just a foul. It was a symbol of everything wrong with the league. Favoritism, division, inequality, resentment. And as the internet turned into a battlefield, the WNBA found itself at a crossroads. Kathy Engelbert released a statement urging unity and respect. Adam Silver stayed silent. The players demanded accountability. Sponsors began calling. The story had gone beyond sports now. It was culture, politics, gender, power, and money colliding in real time. And at the center of it all was one exhausted 22-year-old trying to remember why she loved the game in the first place. Behind the scenes, Caitlin was spiraling. Not dramatically, not publicly, just quietly. The weight was too much. She couldn't post without being attacked, couldn't speak without being analyzed, couldn't play without being judged. She wasn't sleeping. She wasn't smiling. She was performing. For the cameras, for the fans, for the league that had turned her life into its lifeline. Then came the press conference. Adam Silver finally stepped up to address the growing chaos. Cameras filled the room, reporters ready to pounce. He adjusted his tie, looked straight into the crowd, and said the words that would ignite everything all over again. "The WNBA is growing faster than ever," he began. "But we must remember, no player, no matter how talented, defines an entire league." The room went silent. The words sounded reasonable, but everyone knew what he was implying. No player, not even Caitlin Clark, was bigger than the system. Within minutes, the clip went viral. Fans accused him of undermining her. Players accused him of minimizing their struggles. Analysts called it tone deaf. And somewhere in Indiana, Caitlin watched the video alone in her apartment, her phone lighting up with hundreds of messages. She didn't respond to any of them. She just sat there, eyes unfocused, wondering how something she loved so much had turned into this. That night, she didn't go out, didn't post, didn't say a word. She just went to the gym, alone. The court was empty. The lights were dim. She dribbled in silence, the echo bouncing off the walls like a heartbeat. For a few minutes, she wasn't the face of a movement. She wasn't the spark of a cultural debate. She was just a kid again, chasing the sound of the ball hitting the floor, chasing the feeling that used to mean everything. And maybe that's what makes her story different. Because despite everything, the pressure, the politics, the criticism, she still showed up. She still played. The next day, she dropped 37 points in one of the best performances of her career. Not for headlines, not for ratings, but for herself. The crowd went wild. The cameras rolled. But this time, there was something different in her expression. A kind of peace. After the game, a reporter asked if she had a message for Adam Silver. She smiled, just slightly, and said, "I think basketball speaks for itself." That one line broke the internet. Not because it was defiant, but because it was pure, honest, free of the noise. And for a moment, everyone remembered what this was all supposed to be about. Not power, not politics, not profit, just the game. In the weeks that followed, something strange happened. Players started standing together, not just behind Clark, but beside her. Veterans began mentoring rookies. Rival teams started talking about collaboration. And even Adam Silver, quietly, began adjusting his tone. There were no apologies, no sweeping reforms, but something shifted. An unspoken understanding that the league's future depended not on control, but connection. ChatGPT said, Caitlin Clark didn't fix the WNBA or break it. She did something harder. She made it face the truth. In that reflection were ambition, ego, hope, and something real, something worth saving. When the season ended, she went home to Iowa, back to the same driveway where it all began. One shot, one echo, the sound that started it all. It was never about saving the league. It was about loving the game. And somehow, that's exactly what she did.